The Chicago Bears are 6-3 and are passing every expectation we've had for them so far in 2025. But what does a successful season look like now that you've already passed last year's record? Let's get into it right now on Locked On Bears.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Bears here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Thanks for hanging out with us here on this Tuesday. Lauren Cox, if you've missed them, which I'm sure you have, will return tomorrow. But thank you for listening to me over the last couple of days. And reminder, you can hang out with me and Lauren most Tuesday nights. This week it'll be on Wednesday night for our weekly squad show. We'll be live at 6:15 on Wednesday right here on the YouTube channel. The audio will be posted after, as well as after every single Bears game. We do an hour-long post-game show. But thank you again for listening today. On today's show, let's discuss what a successful season looks like for the Bears. Now that they're 6-3, they're ahead of the Packers in the division. They're the 6th seed in the NFC at this moment. All exciting things. So how does it change the view of this season and what we expect from the Bears? We'll take a look at what the odds say, where they agree with us, where they disagree with us. And it's mostly disagree, to be honest, but we'll take a look at that. And we'll talk about how the Bears can immediately help their team right now in the defensive back room, similar to how they've done with CJ Gardner-Johnson, with a player that's visiting on Tuesday. We'll go through a couple points here of what a successful season looks like. We're going to first look at a record, we'll talk playoffs, and then we'll talk about these next 4 games and the stretch for the Bears and kind of break it down into these different parts. So they're 6-3. If you had told me before the season the Bears are 6-3 through 9 games, I would have been ecstatic. I wouldn't really care how it looked like. I wouldn't care if it was defense, if it was offense, if it was Caleb Williams, if it was all just Ben Johnson being a wizard, all of it. We all would have been excited at 6-3. And that's how I feel right now. We're pumped. The fact that the Bears have been able to find ways to win like they have the last 2 weeks. The growth, the development from Caleb Williams has been there. We're seeing Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, Kyle Manungai really develop. We're seeing Darnell Wright take another step. So is a 9-8 record a successful season? We'll really start there. You can let me know here in the comments on YouTube if you're watching, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. You can tweet at me at Joe George Radio or hit me up on Threads at the same handle. 9-8 sounds good after last year. It would have sounded good before the season. And while, yes, it would be a successful season for the Bears, I cannot ignore that. 9-8 would be a success. But that's 3-5 in the remainder of your season. A schedule that, when you look at it on a piece of paper, is daunting. It's not an easy schedule. Now, the way these teams are playing right now, it feels to me it's not as scary as it reads, which we'll get into here in a second. But 3-5 over the last 8 games of the year still kind of feels like a disappointment for me, just of how the Bears have played. And I know everyone's pointing to their strength of record, their strength of victories for their opponents this year, but they're finding a way to win in the elements in big time situations. And frankly, you can only play the teams that are in front of you. And as Ben Johnson said, you don't apologize for getting wins in the NFL. So I would say yes, 9-8 is successful. But I'll be honest again, I would be disappointed. I just look at these teams coming up, and yes, the Bears are 3.5-point underdogs at the Minnesota Vikings, which surprises me a little bit. It's if you look at the way Vegas does it, is the home team gets 3 points. So really they're saying the Vikings are favored by 0.5 point if it was on a neutral field, which obviously doesn't happen in the NFL. But I was a little surprised when I saw that. But J.J. McCarthy hasn't been playing great so far. He didn't play great for the first 3 quarters, and then he was obviously a monster for the Vikings in week 1 of the season. But the Bears should have won that game. The Steelers have been a little bit of a roller coaster this year with Aaron Rodgers. The Packers haven't been playing very well, particularly on offense. Their defense is legit. And you play the Browns this year. And the 49ers are the most injured team, as they seem to always be, in the NFL. As I'm just going through that and Didn't mention the Lions, didn't mention the Eagles because I put those in the L category at the moment. That feels like there's 4 wins in there. That over your next 8 games, you can go 500. That's all you got to do, go 500. So so to wrap up this first one, 9-8, good, still a little disappointed. Is it playoffs or bust for the Chicago Bears? If that is determined how you want to determine success in 2025, now that the Bears are a 6-3 football team. No, for me, it's not. It's not playoffs or bust, and I'll explain why. Because the Bears could go 4-4, and very reasonably not make the playoffs this year. The NFC is stacked. You look at teams like the Rams, the Vikings. I mean, the Rams, the Seahawks, so the Vikings because of Sam Darnold. But those top 2 teams, you're seeing the Lions, of course, the Eagles. The top of the NFC seems pretty locked in at this point. But there's a lot of talent. You are looking at the division or the standings at this point and seeing the Packers and the 49ers, who we just mentioned, sitting behind you in the moment. That's the group. It's from where the 49ers are at in the playoff standings through the 1 seed right now in the NFC. The Panthers, everyone else, doesn't matter. But the Bears are in the thick of it. It's hard for me to say in year 1 of Ben Johnson, in year 2 of Caleb Williams, even though they're 6-3, that if I'm going to ask myself this question of, is playoffs the only way to determine this season as successful? I can't say yes. I want to, but I want to take a deep breath and just say, okay, they're still developing. There's still a long way to go. Maybe these teams that I just went through that are struggling start to play better by the time the Bears see them. The Bears have had a ton of injuries this year defensively. They've, knock on wood, been pretty healthy offensively for the most part this season. I'm a no on if the playoffs are bust is your mindset for the Bears this year. The last thing I want to go through here, though, is just very simply the next 4 games. This to me is where it kind of adds all of this together. But from a shorter term view, the next 4 games for the Chicago Bears, what is a success over those next 4? I think the answer is just 2-2. Could you ask for more again? Sure, you can, but you play the Minnesota Vikings on the road, which is going to be a tough game. Surprised by the line, but going to be a tough game. You end up after that playing Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. You've got a short week playing on Black Friday, which is a rant for another day because I don't like that they have to play on Black Friday, against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then they play the Packers on December 7th for the first time this year in Green Bay. That's how you wrap up the next 4-game stretch. I don't care how it gets done. I don't care if you lose the next 2 games and then you beat the Eagles and the Packers. I don't care if you win the first 2 and then lose the next 2. You'll feel more negative going into the final stretch of the season if it transpires that way. But I look at this team and just say, you simply have to go 500 the next 4 games. That has to be the goal. You're playing a team that just won a Super Bowl. You're playing arch rivals in terms of the Packers, the Vikings, and Aaron Rodgers. 500 is not a lot to ask, and you're playing good football. And Ben Johnson has promised us a lot. I guess promised is a strong word. He has said multiple times that the Chicago Bears are going to be playing their best football when they get to December. When you look at if you look at like a graph or a chart of what the Bears' trajectory is to best ball equals December, I would say they're headed to that right now. So to recap here, 9-8, good, disappointing, not a playoff or bust, and 2-2 in the next 4 games. All right, when we get back, let's take a look at what the odds say. What does Vegas think of the Bears' chances this year? Because, well, they're not as optimistic as I am. So we'll go through them. I'll tell you where I mostly disagree and maybe a little of what I would where I want to put my money, I would say, on a couple of these things. We'll get to all of that next year on Locked On Bears. Today's show is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a service. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply.
The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. We're all enjoying the NFL season so far, but the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps everything exciting, especially when your team is the one making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Bears your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, let's take a look here at what the odds say about the Bears so far this season, where they're at going forward, because I think it gives a good picture of, a very objective point of view. But I'll explain to where some of these where I disagree and where I agree. The first thing here is not a Vegas point of view. This is just something I found interesting. There's all these different websites. There's one called Playoff Status that has the Bears at over a 57% chance to make the playoffs. These models are always a little different, so you can kind of, I think, as a Bears fan or someone that's not a Bears fan or of any team, you can kind of pick and choose which model you want to look at and say, see, your team or my team has a chance or has no chance to make the playoffs this year. I really like the one on The Athletic because what they've done is they let you go through and simulate the season, or you can pick which games everyone is winning and losing, and really goes week by week how their percentages go up and down. But as of this moment, even though, again, the Bears are currently the 6th seed, they have the same record as the Lions. So they're, tied for the Lions or a half game back, however you want to view it, because of the tiebreaker of the Lions right now. Their model has the Bears having a 31% chance to make the playoffs in 2025. It's hard to disagree with because, again, you don't know what goes into it. I just thought that was interesting that even at 6-3, that to me is what their model shows, is that the good teams that the Bears are going to play are going to continue to win or start winning again, like the Packers and the Niners. And at some point here, the Bears are going to falter. Now, I think they're probably looking at mostly strength of schedule and strength of victories from the Bears' opponents to help determine that, which is an incredibly flawed process, which is why I would say don't take too much of it, like personally as a Bears fan. Like, don't think that the Athletic doesn't like you or this other website doesn't like you because of what the odds say. They're looking at straight analytical numbers. A computer model puts it in, spits it out, and says, this is what the Bears' chances are. When the reality is, we've seen the Browns beat the Packers this year. We've seen the Panthers beat, the Falcons by 30. We've seen the Saints beat the Panthers. We've seen the Miami Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills this last weekend. It matters what happens on the field. Now let's get to Vegas here and what they have. We started that last segment about 9-8 being the number for the Bears, or the record of if that's a successful season or not. The reason I use that is because when I looked at the odds here of the midseason odds, or a little more than midseason odds of where the Bears over under it at is for the rest of the year, or what their current win total is. They've got it at 9.5, and it's 9.5 over 9.5 is plus 140. It's a minus 165 under on the Bears win total this year. So they think that that's exactly where the Bears are, and it's 3-5 or 4-4 over the remaining stretch. Perfectly fair conversation to have it. I'm not surprised by this. I think this is exactly where it should be in terms of the odds. I'm bullish on the fact that the Bears can get to 10 wins this season, but we've always got blinders on a little bit when we're talking about this team and what they've done recently. So the number's 9.5 if you wanted to look at it. The next one here I wanted to pull up that I thought was interesting and was curious about is the Bears, sit here at the top or, close to the top of the NFC North is what the view of them is as winning the division. Because when we're all talking about the playoffs for the Bears, I think we're all still talking mostly only about the wild card. When in reality, they're in striking distance because of literally they're both 6-3 with the Lions and you're ahead of the Packers of winning the NFC North this year. That for the first time in the Ryan Poles era, when he started with we're going to take the North and never give it back, which I still can't believe he said that, that you have a shot to win the division this year based on where your record is right now. The odds here are a little jarring. I was a little surprised when I saw this. So the over-under 9.5, this shows to more that they think the Lions are going to be still a 12-13 win football team this year. Can't say I disagree with them. But the Bears currently are plus 900 to win the division. 9-1 odds to win the division this year. They're plus 330 to finish second, plus 115 to finish third, and they're plus 245 to finish in last place in the division. That last number makes me feel good, at least a little bit. They don't think the Bears are going to fall behind the Minnesota Vikings. But, I think this makes a lot of sense. I'm curious if, by the time maybe you go look at this, if you choose to do so, if it will change, because this hasn't really recalibrated after the ugly Monday Night Football game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. But this one, to me, it makes some sense. I'm just shocked that it's such a big number at this point in the season, but we're seeing a lot of weird stuff in terms of odds this year. The Baltimore Ravens have been the favorite to win their division this entire season, and they've been well below 500 throughout most of it because of the injuries. And frankly, they're going to be right. I think Baltimore's going to run away with this thing this year, and we're going to be looking back at that Bears game and be like, that's the game that turned the Baltimore Ravens season around. The last one here that I wanted to hit on, and it's more of a big picture point that we're going to discuss on the squad show on Wednesday night. Myself, Lauren Cox, and Taylor Dahl will be live at 6:15, is Coach of the Year. Ben Johnson, to me, and there's a lot of great candidates, and we're going to go through a couple of them here. Ben Johnson has to be towards the top of this list of Coach of the Year. Currently, he's not. He's plus 3,000 to win Coach of the Year. A coach that has already surpassed last year's win mark for the Bears. That is developing your quarterback in real time. That's fixed your running game on the fly this season. That's improved your offensive line, made bold decisions on your offensive line. I'm just surprised he's as low as he is. Mike Vrabel, 8-2 right now. Good argument. Patriots were bad last year. But what's the difference between Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson right now? Honestly, Drake May is a candidate, is one of the betting favorites to win MVP this year. Caleb Williams is obviously not in that discussion. But the coaching aspect of this, Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel are not far apart with the turnaround that these two franchises have made from last season into this season. So I'm surprised just how far back Ben Johnson is. The order goes as this currently. Mike Vrabel 1, Shane Steichen 2 with the Colts, Mike McDonald 3 with the Seahawks, Sean McVay 4, Jim Harbaugh 5, or is tied with 5th for Ben Johnson. So it's not a disrespect thing. It's, to be tied for 5th is still an accomplishment, I would say, in terms of the respect that they view you as. But I think it should be higher. And to me, the top 3 candidates are Vrabel, Steichen, and then I would put Ben Johnson. I think what Mike McDonald's doing is fantastic in Seattle, but they were solid last year with him. And to me, this award should be determined based on growth, not just having the best record in the NFC. Like, I think it would be a mistake to award this to Sean McVay if the Rams end up with the number 1 seed in the NFC. This award to me should be about growth and how you turned a bad team into a good team. And that's what Vrabel and Ben Johnson are doing. Shane Steichen was the coach last year in Indianapolis. He is part of the organization that decided that Anthony Richardson was the go-to option before they seemingly hit a home run with Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. So this is where I mostly disagree of all the things that we just went through of what the odds say about the Bears and their coach Ben Johnson so far. Ben Johnson should be much higher on this list. He's a funny guy. I can't get over Ben Johnson, what he's like on the sidelines. So stoic, or angry at all times, and then you see him in these post-game celebrations, and he lets loose. He's ready to go, fired up. I love the demeanor from him. So I'd have him second. That's my only complaint there of what the odds are saying about the Chicago Bears. It also seems the Bears and Ryan Poles and Dennis Allen in particular have made a really shrewd move in adding CJ Gardner-Johnson. Got a game ball from Ben Johnson after this last game, getting 2 sacks. We'll discuss more of that, but that's not the end. The Bears on Tuesday have the opportunity to add more help to this team that they desperately need in the secondary. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Bears.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, so the Bears, let's talk first here about what they can do tomorrow, and then we'll go a little bit back more into CJ Gardner-Johnson and the impact that he's making on this team. On Tuesday, at some point during the day or in the morning, maybe by the time you've listened to this, honestly, Asante Samuel Jr. will be visiting the Chicago Bears, the former second-round pick who had a spinal fusion surgery this offseason or in April. He's been cleared to go. And reports so far from like San Francisco is that he looked good in the workouts. He's working out with the Green Bay Packers. He's working out, again, with the Bears on Tuesday. He has multiple stops on his list, trying to find the right spot for him. For 2 reasons, 2 separate reasons, he's the perfect fit for the Bears. He's the perfect fit for the Bears' perspective, I guess, and for the exact same reason. He's going to play. Like, you want to play? You want to be on a team that's 6-3? This team needs you. Now, maybe he would view the 49ers or the Packers or someone as a team that he has a longer-term future with this season, because obviously it would move down the depth chart if Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson both can come back healthy this year. But there's no guarantee that Jalen Johnson's going to come back. There's no guarantee that Kyler Gordon's going to come back. We all want them to. We know Kyler Gordon's not far from being eligible to be reinstated from IR, but you can't guarantee it. We saw Kyler Gordon come back and get hurt again. We've seen TJ Edwards this year come back and get hurt again. Jalen Johnson came back and got hurt. Like these guys have not stayed healthy, unfortunately. And it's hard for me to look at this if I was a member of the front office and say, yes, the Bears can just keep waiting to fix this cornerback room, because Deshaun Wright, while he wasn't really noticeable in this game besides the dropped interception, hasn't been good this year. He's averaging over 11 yards per reception when the ball is thrown at him. He's allowing a 90.4 quarterback passer rating when Deshaun Wright is thrown at. You have to upgrade there. And as you go into the stretch of football, and maybe Asante Samuel, if you sign him this week, is not part of the game versus the Minnesota Vikings. But why not? You're facing Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Put him out there for a handful of snaps. It doesn't have to be a full integration into the defense. Teach him a little bit, some specialty packages, but he's going to play. And that's why, to me, it's a good fit for Asante Samuel Jr., and it's a great fit for the Bears because they need help. And it's a second-round pick who has talent, who has shown talent, and has been cleared. It's a home run move. Ryan Poles cannot let him leave the facility. I mean, he doesn't have the connections to this coaching staff that CJ Gardner-Johnson did with Dennis Allen, but I think it would be such a mistake to allow someone of this talent to walk into House Hall and walk out without pen to paper. You got to convince him that this is the team that he should be part of, and you have to convince yourselves, right? Like, we can be objective here for a second. If I'm wrong about if he doesn't look good in practice, you don't sign him, I guess. But even then, what's the risk? You sign him for a couple $1,000,000, probably $2 million for the rest of the season. And if he gets hurt, unfortunately for him, or he's just bad, you move on. You've lost $2 million because he's on IR. Like, what's the risk here? There's absolutely none, because even if he's not good, do you think he's going to be worse than Deshaun Wright? I don't think so. And honestly, to not talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson, but with Asante Samuel, I think you have to look at the impact that this guy has made on the Bears in just 2 games and say, why not do it again? Lauren and I have talked about this since training camp. The Bears have been strange with injuries. They had all these injuries at the running back position, and they didn't make any moves because they knew that Kyle Monangai was fine. So was DeAndre Swift. Rashawn Johnson would eventually be fine, even though he's obviously not a factor. But they never signed a running back. They brought running backs in. They never signed anyone. There was days when the Bears had one running back at practice in training camp. They stayed status quo, which told us they're good. Linebacker. They've had linebacker issues all year with health, with TJ Edwards. They haven't really addressed it. Ruben Hippolyte seems like a total bust. Sorry, I know he got hurt this last weekend, but you could have used him. In theory, it's a 4th-round pick. Doesn't play. They haven't added the linebacker room because they know they're going to get TJ Edwards back. Corner, they didn't add all year because they knew Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson were going to come back. They didn't add CJ Gardner-Johnson until Kyler Gordon got hurt again and was forced to go on the 4-week injured reserve, which they then desperately had to make a move because you were getting Tyreek Stevenson back from injury, but you needed reinforcements. And that to me showed, it was good decision-making finally. My point is I would have liked to see the Bears be more aggressive earlier this offseason in adding depth because, maybe the Bengals game is not as close. If you have someone that's just a marginal upgrade, we mentioned this last week, I would have liked to see the Bears try to make a trade for a corner just to add a little bit of depth or competition to that spot. And this feels like your last real chance, Ryan Poles, to make an impact on the 2025 Chicago Bears. There's no risk. It's all reward. And it would be a huge mistake to let Asante Samuel Jr. out of House Hall on Tuesday. Just give him what he wants. Tell him he's going to start. He's going to. And give him his money and get him in and have him join the Chicago Bears. But to give Ryan Poles credit, the move he made with CJ Gardner-Johnson and maybe the credits due to Dennis Allen because of what's happened and their connection, this guy he has been, talking about risk versus reward. The reward's through the roof. 3 sacks, a fumble recovery, an impact player out there. He's really replaced Kyler Gordon effectively in terms of how he's using as the blitzing corner, the blitzing nickel in Dennis Allen's defense. It's been a home run signing. And again, it's frustrating that they didn't make moves like this when they had the chance. They waited because you always could have got CJ Gardner-Johnson. He was home for 2 months. Side note, why did it take 2 months to get him in? You could have got him in sooner when he got released by the Eagles after being released by the Texans. But he's fitted nicely here, and it's been a great move for the Bears. So if they can add Asante Samuel Jr. and you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, and you do get Kyler Gordon back, and you do get Jalen Johnson back, this team that, as we talked about on this show today, that's trying to make a legit playoff push and trying to make the playoffs, the floor is so much higher than it has been with your defensive backs if you just make these moves. Your linebacker core is really good when TJ Edwards is out there. Need him out there. We saw Noah Sewell not be good in this game. Your cornerbacks and your safeties would be really talented and have good depth if you make this move and get those guys back healthy. And we're seeing Montez Sweat and Grady Jarrett play a little bit better. And Austin Booker has been getting to the quarterback as well. The Bears defense has not been good this year for the most part. But these moves, these guys getting back from injury can really get the Bears, I think, pointed in the right direction of not having a Urlacher Briggs or an 85 Bears defense, but, being competent, in this game, not forcing the offense to have to be nearly perfect throughout a game and not giving up huge chunk plays that make this game really challenging for the Bears. So got to make the move. It was a great move for CJ Gardner-Johnson. Don't stop there if you're Ryan Poles. Get this one done and get Asante Samuel in wrapping up here as a member of the Chicago Bears. Thank you again to everyone that listened while I filled in for Lauren. Appreciate you all for listening, for watching. It's been a lot of fun to fill in him for these last 5 shows. You can catch me and Lauren and Taylor Dahl on the Bear Squad show live this week, 6:15, right here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. And then starting back after that, we'll be back to Tuesday nights at 6:15. And you can hang out with me, Lauren, and Adam Sager for an hour after every single Bears game, live and in the comments and on the audio, after hopefully another Bears win this week over the Minnesota Vikings. So thank you for watching. Remind you can find me on Twitter at Joe George Radio. Lauren Cox will return to his show on Wednesday. So thank you all for listening. A reminder, make sure Locked On NFL is your second listen every day after you listen to Lauren. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So I will talk to you on the Squad Show. Thank you again to Lauren for letting me fill in. Talk to you guys later.